All right. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our awesome live today discussing the Oscar Best Picture nominees, and I guess we'll probably end up discussing other categories as well, because a lot of stuff bleeds over
Oh
when you
yeah.
watch Best Picture nominees. So, um, as per usual, one of my guests is Ryan today. So,
Yeah.
how you doing today, sir?
Good man. Thank you for having me on. I think this is our third or fourth live stream now, so I definitely appreciate you having me back.
Yeah, it's always fun having you around. And look, we have Mike in the chat. Yo, fellas, I hope you're doing well. Hi,
Hey
Mike.
Mike, hope you're
Doing
doing
good
well
too,
too,
sir.
man.
Yeah. He's always in the chat. Like right away when the stream starts, always says hello. So, oh, and here's another one. Holland
Hey,
Oats.
what's up,
Hey,
Holland?
hello. So, this Sunday, right? Sunday
Yep.
is the Oscars. And um, me and Ryan have both seen all the Best Picture nominees now. So, we figured we would do a live just discussing the Best Picture nominees, all 10 of them, um, and just kind of talking about the Oscars, I guess, because it's like probably the biggest event for film a year, when not like a movie release. Like as far as award shows go for films, it's definitely the most high profile one.
Oh,
So,
definitely.
so yeah. So, Ryan, what are your overall thoughts on like the Oscars? Just like in
Like,
general, like past years, or just in general, your experience with them.
to be honest with you, I really didn't keep up with it like most years. To be honest with you, I did watch it last year, with everything all at once, and winning all those awards and stuff like that. Um, I'm intrigued to see how this year goes. Having 10 Best Picture nominees, it's a lot for
Mhm.
sure. I heard, because I was watching another channel, I heard there used to be only five, and they just started to add
Yeah.
more now. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's been pretty recent that they went up to 10. I mean, like recent as in probably like 20 years, because like the Oscar, this is like the 96th Academy Awards, right? I think.
Something like that.
But yeah. But it hasn't been the whole time that's been 10. It used to just be 5 for every category.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
hmm Um, how many of these movies had you seen like before they got announced for Best Picture, or like in the
Maybe
nominated?
like five or six of them.
Mm. I This was the year I did the best on it. I had seen 9 out of the 10. The only one I hadn't seen yet was Zone of Interest, because it
Hmm.
hadn't released yet for me. Um, but most years, well, last year I think I saw 7 of them before
Hmm.
they got announced, and then the year before I only seen like 4 of them. This is only my 3rd year watching all the Best Picture nominees, just because I kinda, if I'm gonna declare I want this movie to win Best Picture, I kind of want to be well informed on it instead of just
Yeah,
one out of the 4 I've seen. I don't think that's
that's true.
that fair. So I started doing that 3 years ago, and last year was the first year I watched the Oscars because I wanted to see everything everywhere all at once, just sweep. So, but yeah, I used to not like the Oscars. I was like, these are all movies I've never heard of. I don't care about any of these movies. Like, why isn't stuff like any of the Marvel movies? Why don't those win Best Picture?
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's kind of weird because it seems like sometimes they gear towards like the, I want to say like art house films or like more serious films and stuff like that, artsy films,
Very
stuff like
true.
that,
Hmm.
instead of more like your blockbuster stuff, which is surprising to me that Barbie got nominated. I'm still pretty surprised that one is. It just seemed like an odd pick to me, but um,
That one is odd.
more on that later. But yeah, how do you feel like overall about this set of 10 films that we have this year? Like, would you say it's like a good set of films, or how do you feel about them?
I'm like half and half on it. I feel like because I don't know if we were gonna rank them, but I did have a ranking as far as like
Yeah.
best to least, and I feel like the bottom five, like they're movies I probably won't watch again personally, but I feel like the first like 4 to 5 are definitely ones that I definitely would watch again. Definitely my first 3 for sure. Because I did pick those up. I have them on physical media. So I feel like there's like a few of them like I really like, and then others like I know I won't watch again. So
Mhm.
kind of like half and half, I guess.
Yeah, I'd mostly agree with that. I think that most of the films are, like, good one-time watches, like, "Yeah, that was really good," and then I just never watch it again, even though if I even I really enjoyed it or whatever. Uh,
Right.
there's a few of these films I didn't rewatch when they got nominated for Best Picture. I tried doing that even if I've seen them, but they were either just, like, so fresh in my mind or I just didn't have the time to do it, but
Right. Some of them are pretty long.
yeah, like,
Killers
and
of the Flower Moon.
I rewatched that one. I've seen that movie twice now.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a long one.
it's long. Um, but yeah, so I was just gonna go through them alphabetically. I do have a ranking too on my letterbox, so
Okay.
we can both share like our ranking on
Okay.
them, each like where they place, and then um I think it's always fun with the Oscars. We can share like our ranking on them and then like how likely we think it'll actually be to win because I feel like how I feel about
Hmm.
some of these movies isn't going to be necessarily how they're going to end up playing out winning.
Hmm.
Um so um let me just look up
Yeah.
real quick. Okay. So, okay, we'll just go through the list of nominees that Google has. So, it's not
Okay.
alphabetical, but the first one is The Holdovers. So, how did you feel about The Holdovers?
So to be honest with you, that one I felt it was okay. Um, my biggest thing with that movie is I think it was shot well. Um, I was thinking there was going to be some more comedy in that, but there wasn't. It was a little bit slow, to be honest. And the biggest thing with that is like the characters. I felt like throughout, like I didn't really like the main student that much because he was kind of
Mhm.
bratty to me a little bit.
Yeah.
And Paul Giamatti's character, I just felt like as the film went along, I felt like their characters didn't necessarily kind of change during the film because, like, not to spoil the ending, but I felt like the ending was very anticlimactic in a way. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of people gave that one very high praise. Even some people that I know that don't like slower movies liked it as well. I mean, it's a movie that I can't say that I hated or anything like that. Like I would say like it was okay, but it's not something that I would probably rush to watch again.
I'm going to be a counterpoint. I really enjoyed this one. This was this is actually my favorite of the best picture nominees, which is weird that it was
Okay.
first. But and for when I did my end of the year list last year, it was my favorite movie of the year, but then I rewatched a few of the other ones, so it's like second or third now, but still pretty high up there.
Mhm.
I really enjoyed it. I don't know, I just thought it was like it just felt like a classic feel good movie, you know, maybe something like John Hughes would have done,
Mhm.
where it's just kind of it definitely has like that late 70s, early 80s vibe, which is like the way it's shot and whatever.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so it just felt very classic. Um, I just even though like you said the main kid was a brat and I can understand that, but it was amusing to me like
Mhm.
just how much of a smartass he was and stuff. I thought it was pretty on the nose with the writing side.
Mhm.
Um and stuff. And then I liked the way that Paul Giamatti's character um like learned to care for this kid essentially when always being like that bit of a grump, um or at least it seemed like. um I mean, yeah, there's it's pretty cliche, I would say, but
Mhm.
I really dug it. Upon rewatching it, I do get the criticism that it is a little slow. I guess, in like the middle section to a little bit. I definitely get that. Um, but yeah, I really like this one.
Yeah, a lot of people really did. I feel like I'm definitely in the minority.
Yeah, well, Mike agrees with you.
Yeah, I remember me and
Definitely
Mike
got
agreed on it.
overhyped.
I
Yeah,
remember
I can
he went
I can get the
see.
overhyped part.
Yeah, I remember he came out of the theater and he voice noted me because we always voice note each other about movies we watch. And I remember him saying, "Oh yeah, I felt it was overhyped."
Yeah.
so
And when I saw it in theaters at first, I was just like, "Oh, that was really good." And then I just kept thinking about it, and then just like the more it crept up my end of the year list, and I was like, "Yeah, that was really, really good, and I enjoyed that." And then I started hearing about like everyone else loving it, and I was like, "Oh," like I
yeah,
didn't know what anyone else thought about it because it kind of did like a small release
mm,
where I'm at around Thanksgiving. Um, so and there was other stuff going on in November, like bigger releases. I felt like this one got a little bit overshadowed, at least in the theaters in its initial run. But Holland says, I think the only one I didn't have huge interest in was American Fiction. Just like Tar last year, I have zero interest in Maestro.
hmm,
Well, that leads us into the next one on the list, which is American Fiction. So, so this one's weird because it premiered last year in 2023. So it's
mm,
like on Letterboxd, it's classified as a 2023 movie, but most people didn't see it till 2024. And so like
same
to
here.
me, so for me, I'm putting it in my 2024 movies list. Same with
Hmm.
Zone of Interest. There's that happens all the time in January. But but the thing that I thought was really clever about American Fiction is that it does like the social commentary stuff right in a way where it does it in like a very comedic way and doesn't just sit you down and be like, here is our message and beat you over the head with it. Like
Hmm.
it does it in like a very comedic way where it does have the message but it's entertaining for you to discover this message in a way, I guess. And
Hmm.
it's not fully about that because it's also like the family drama piece to it too. Um, so I do want to rewatch American Fiction eventually. I just didn't. This is one of the ones I didn't have the time to rewatch. But what did you think about this one?
So I liked it. I definitely think that Jeffrey Wright should definitely get some more main star roles. His character is very interesting because he's a smart ass. You know, he's sophisticated. Obviously, he's writing this. He's trying to write books, and um, you know, not being accepted because he's being, you know, I guess you want to say like really like smart in the way and sophisticated how he writes, which
Hmm.
apparently isn't accepted in the black community.
Hmm.
And you know, when he writes that book and just the dialogue in it and just you know how he formulates all that, it's just like
Yeah.
people love this. You know, I think my biggest question with that movie too, because I'm not really obviously I'm not really a big like writer or reader or anything. So I do wonder if that's something that happens in the black community. Is it or if it's just something like they kind of based on somebody else that maybe had to deal with that. I was curious about that um, because I'm not very familiar or versed on that. I also like to with his character. They went into like his family, and obviously he wasn't that close with his family and you know going to like his brother and his mother, you know it was really sad about his mother. I could relate to the Alzheimer's part because my grandmother has Alzheimer's. um, and it can get really you know it can get really crazy with that stuff, so there's definitely like a connection there. I think my only problem with the movie was the third act was kind of bonkers a little bit there towards the end. um,
Yeah.
and again
That was something that bothered me too. Is like the ending where it does like the three or four different scenarios, I guess.
yeah,
And when I first saw it, I was like, okay, but which one actually happened? Was like,
right.
I was a little confused with that.
Yeah, I needed to get a little bit of clarification by the end of that movie as to exactly what that ending was because I kind of was like, that's it. But like I was
Mhm,
liking it up to that point. I think I gave
mhm,
it a 3.5 out of 5. It is a movie that maybe I would watch again. I don't think it's a movie I'd put in the physical media collection or like watch over and over again. But I did like Jeffrey Wright's performance enough to where if it came on like streaming or something, or something like that, where I could just like casually watch it again, I would give it another shot. I mean, it definitely
mhm,
entertained me, and definitely there were some laughs in it too. I did like how they kind of mix mash the genres a little bit there. Had a little bit of comedy, a little bit of out there with its story a little bit, and then a little bit of sentimental moments as well. And it was also interesting how his love life was as well.
mhm,
That neighbor or whatever. So it was just interesting, just like diving into his character and how he thought of things.
mhm. Also, going back to something you first said about this one, Jeffrey Wright needs more leading roles. Um, I 100% agree. He's been awesome in everything I've seen him in. I've really liked
Yeah,
it. Like, I first saw him in The Hunger Games, and then The Batman, and now this. And I've enjoyed him in all three things. I'm sure I've seen him in other things too, but everything I've seen him in, I've really enjoyed him
yeah.
in.
He's kind of been in the background most of the time.
Hmm. Yeah, he was kind of like he was a side character in the Hunger Games. I don't know if you've seen all those.
Yes, I've seen them all.
You have, okay. And then um, with the Batman, he got I don't know. I feel like with the Batman, he got more recognition because that was such a high profile thing.
Yeah,
Definitely more than the Hunger Games films. Um, so, and then it's always cool to see people do like I don't want to say like Oscar bait stuff, but Oscar bait so you can like see that what they can do as an actor instead of um, just doing blockbuster stuff, like more
right.
mainstream stuff. But yeah, he was really good in this. I understand why he got nominated for best actor, I believe.
Yeah, I enjoyed his acting in this one for sure.
Hmm. Ooh, Holland missing out on American Fiction. It's a pretty good movie, but not a great ending. I
Yes,
would
we
agree
agree.
with that. Yeah. I bet Ryan will be getting the holdovers and all the
No,
best picture nominees on Blu-ray at least.
nope.
Hey, I got the holdovers on Blu-ray. I enjoyed it.
And now it's getting a 4K. I heard.
Holdovers?
That's what I heard.
I don't think I'd go for I wouldn't go for 4K on it. Normal Blu-ray is fine for me.
Yeah,
I did see it and I agree on the ending. I expected it to be funnier. I found it quite dry. I'll agree that I expected it to be funnier too because I heard from like the reviews of it from like its premiere or whatever in film
hmm,
festivals that it was really funny. And so I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be I'm gonna laugh so much." And I did laugh quite a bit, but I expected it to be a little bit funnier, but I'm
yeah.
not but I thought it was pretty properly rated from what I heard. Like it wasn't overhyped for me. It was about as good as I expected it to be.
I think more people are discovering it too because it didn't get the most proper release either. It took forever to get to me.
When did you end up seeing it?
Sometime in January.
Yeah, I saw it in January. It was like the second week of January. I think I saw it.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but it was around there somewhere. But um, I went and I was the only one in the theater.
Yeah, I
So,
would there were quite a few other people in the theater with me. It was my favorite movie of the year for a while.
mm,
But I mean it was competing against Night Swim and that was about it. So
movie
not
was
that
bad.
not that hard. The people next to me in Night Swim, when we walked out, they're like, "Dang, that was so good." And I'm thinking, "What type of movie did you guys see?" I'm sitting right
Yeah,
next to you. I'm like, "Geez, you guys don't see good movies very much then." Uh,
yeah. The thing that I always remember is the movie that we may not like. Somebody out there loves it.
mhm, yes. All right, next one up on the list, The Zone of Interest. What did you think of this one?
This is actually my least favorite out of all 10 of them.
I think it's my least favorite one too.
I did
Yeah.
not like that movie. I was very bored. Only one in the theater. It just basically was an observation piece. Um, and there's not a lot of story, I mean, it's shot beautifully.
Yeah.
Um, you know, sound wise, it's good. There's definitely a lot of like stuff like sounds in the background that kind of plays into the fact that the concentration camp is there. And it's like a different take, I guess, on that time period rather
Yeah, on
than
World War
being like
II and
super
stuff.
visual. Yeah, rather than being like super visual and showing you everything up front, rather
Mhm.
than just having the sounds in the background. I mean, there was nobody like really likable because, I mean, you have like the kids kind of like playing, they'll show, and then, you know, they were really into their garden, and then the other guy, he was trying to get higher up in the ranks. And I mean, I think like the most like kind of like gut wrenching scene was the shoes in the chamber there.
Oh, like, wasn't that towards the end? Where it's just,
Yeah,
like, showing all the just shoes,
yeah.
pile of
That
shoes, yeah.
I think that is the most like visually where you just look at it and you, especially for me, because like I have a kid, like just imagining all those kids like just being thrown in there and like, you know, it's a tough situation there. Um, but I think like it's a movie like a lot of people don't know about because again it wasn't very accessible. I didn't
Mhm.
see it until January, and I think a
Yeah,
lot of people
I
probably
didn't
won't
see it till
discover it.
January either.
Yeah, and A24 didn't market it very well either.
Mm,
So I think it's going to be one of those films that people will discover during the Oscars and know about it then. But I don't think a lot of the general audience is going to like it personally. To me, I have to have more of a plot in my movies, and there wasn't
mhm.
really a lot of plot or direction. It was just kind of observing everything that went on. So, because there's only like one other movie that I think I've ever seen in my life that's like that, but it's a completely different subject. Um, but like that to me just was like pure observation and no plot. So
Yeah, that's kinda how I felt, it was just kinda, like, stuff happening with no
yeah,
real through line to it, and,
yeah,
like, the way I described it to someone when they asked me what it was about, I'm like or what it was like, I'm like, "I don't know how familiar you are with Quentin Tarantino,
hmm,
but I was like, it's like a Tarantino film, but without any of the memorable characters or dialogue." And what I mean by that is Quentin Tarantino, as much as I love him, he makes movies that sometimes don't have a lot of plot in them, but he fills
hmm,
his movies with like very interesting characters, memorable dialogue and stuff and like memorable scenes and stuff
hmm.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I really enjoy that film, but
I like
it's kinda just Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt driving around Hollywood
it.
talking and stuff,
Yeah,
but, like but Tarantino gets away with it because he makes it interesting,
hmm,
and, like, this movie is kinda like that, but it's not interesting because
right.
there's no characters that are memorable or anything, and, like, I don't know. It was just like that. There was also a little bit too much art house stuff for me or whatever. Like the beginning when there's just like 2 minutes of a solid black screen or
Yep.
like when
And
it
he
did
changes the
that
color.
yeah, and then it like does that thing where it's like all gray and then like the highlighted girl
Yep.
dancing around or whatever. Like that's just a little bit too weird and art housey for me. Um
Yeah, they'll show like that
yeah,
thermal, the picture of like the girl with I'd call it like a thermal
yeah, like the thermal thing, yeah.
video or whatever you want to
Mhm.
call it. Super
Yeah.
strange. I mean,
Mhm. And
it just
then
didn't do a whole lot for me personally.
yeah, and it's not like you have anyone that you're rooting for in the movie too
Nah.
because they're all Nazis and they're like, "Hey, let's make this gas chamber that rotates so we can be more efficient." I'm like, "Geez, that is so messed up."
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
like I'm like, I don't like any of you guys, so I don't really care what happens to any of you, so
Yeah.
yeah.
I definitely feel it's like one of those movies where if you're looking to really experiment and do something different, if you're really into cinematography and camera work, those are the kinds of people that will appreciate it. But like you share this to the general audience, they're gonna be bored off their ass.
Yeah, like, the only people that'll have any appreciation for it are, like, cinephiles that, like,
Yeah.
look at the camera stuff, look at the production design and stuff, but your general audience doesn't care about that stuff.
Right, exactly.
They
Yeah,
just
like
wanna
it's a
go
well
see Night Swim, but they don't
it's
want
just
Zone of Interest.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it looks like production wise like everything like that, cameras and everything, it's good. But like, I'm sorry, I gotta have a plot in my movies. I really do, and dialogue is a big thing too.
Mm-hmm. Mike asked a good question. Why didn't Night Swim get nominated? I mean, a haunted pool is scary. I mean, that is a pretty big snub, and we haven't even had the awards yet. Uh, yeah, this one leaned too artsy. I don't know if Zone is at the bottom for me, but it's bottom half for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bottom, not by a lot for me though. The zone of interest plot explanation. Some people in Germany chill in a garden.
Well, see, that's okay. So he made a good point there. So I never, when I okay, I don't know if you this happened to you, but sometimes I watch some people's YouTube videos on my TV, and so like it'll have the ad, and it had that ad. That's all it showed were people working in a freaking garden. And when I went into this movie, I was like, "What the hell is this movie about?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's what it's about." So it's more than just the garden, but I mean that it's not it wasn't marketed well. And I guess it's hard to market it because again, it's an observation piece. So it's like
Hmm. And
how do you market this?
I think it's harder for it to get marketed to us too in America because I'm pretty sure this is a foreign film, even though it's made by A24. I believe it
Yeah.
was foreign made, and I don't know how many foreign film trailers I have seen like play. If I see foreign films, it's just kind of like on a whim.
Hmm.
I had no idea what this movie was walking into it. It's like Oscar nominated film. It's a picture of some green grass and a black sky and some lawn chairs. That's about all I knew from the poster.
Yeah.
When the start of the movie had that black screen, I nearly left my cinema to get a stab because I thought the picture had crashed. Yeah, there, like everyone in my theater too was like, "What's happening?" And people were just like looking
Yeah.
at each other awkwardly. But because my theater is actually pretty packed for this one, not packed, but it wasn't one per. Didn't you say you saw this one alone?
Yeah, there's nobody in there. I went on like I went during the week, like on like maybe like a 5 o'clock showing on like a Tuesday or something like that, and there's nobody in there.
Mhm.
Because it's weird the way it opened. You know how movies they usually open either on that Friday or like they'll have like a showing the Thursday before the Friday. This just
Mhm.
randomly opened on a Tuesday. They randomly got it on a Tuesday, so I just went.
Nice. So yeah. So I don't think that one will win Best Picture, but
No, no way.
most people don't even know what
I
it
think
is.
I'd be angry if it did.
If it did, I would just be so confused. I'd be like, "What?" Like
Yeah,
I wouldn't get it. But
no,
yeah, again, I don't get why some stuff gets nominated over other stuff. But
that's true too.
next up we have Barbie, the highest grossing film of last year. I'm wearing my Barbenheimer shirt today for the
Nice.
stream because we got Barbie and Oppenheimer going at it for Best Picture. Um, but Barbie, I this was one of the bigger surprises for me last year. I had no interest in a Barbie movie like whatsoever, and I was
Mhm.
like, I don't like. I'll go see it because A, I see everything, and B, I did the Barbenheimer double feature, so I was like, sure. And I watched it, and I was like, I actually really enjoyed that. And
Mhm.
then like just the way that the it was way funnier than I thought it was gonna be, especially like Ryan Gosling as Ken was hilarious. Just a lot of funny moments like the "I'm just Ken," a lot of quotable lines from it,
Mhm.
and stuff. Some fun cameos in there too. Um, and I don't know if this is tainting my experience with this film, but after I saw this film about 2 weeks later, I went on vacation with my family, with, like, all my cousins and stuff, and like, everyone in my family had already seen Barbie at that point.
Mhm.
And so we just kept quoting Barbie and referencing Barbie and listening to the soundtrack, like, on repeat for a whole week. And so I just have, like, a lot of fun interactions because of Barbie. I don't know if that's tainting how I feel about the film, but I enjoyed it way more than I thought it would, and I've actually rewatched it, um, just, like, randomly. Before it even got nominated for Best Picture, I was like, "You know what? Let's just watch Barbie," and I did. So
Yeah, I've watched it twice. I watched it once in the theater, and then my wife wanted it on 4K, so I grabbed it, and so we've watched it once since then.
Hmm.
So um, for me, I thought it was all right. I liked it a little bit more the second time. Margot Robbie's nice to look at, so
Yeah.
I really like her, and I definitely get more into the humor. I never was like, I know a lot of people like really had a lot of controversy with the plot and like what the messaging was and all that, but I didn't really have a problem with it. I kind of saw it, I think, from a different perspective on what they were going for as far as that. Um, but I mean, like overall, like I definitely feel like it has its humorous moments, and I think like the main thing for me that I didn't like about it was the whole Will Ferrell plot. I thought that was kind of a waste.
Yeah, like that plot line was a little weird.
Yeah,
I will say that even though I thought Will Ferrell was hilarious, like
yeah, like Will
like with the
Ferrell.
stuff he did, just like some of the lines where he's like something something executive number two or something
Yeah,
like that one got a pretty big laugh out of me. Um, yeah, I can agree with that. Um, I'll I'll say something about like the whole like messaging thing about Barbie. I didn't have
hmm
a problem with like what they were going for with the messaging or whatever. I just thought like towards the end it kind of got a little, I don't want to say preachy, I guess, but like just like directly telling you what it is when they were like sitting all the Barbies down and then like telling them a sentence or two to snap them out of this trance or whatever.
yeah,
Or whatever. I thought that was a little, it's like pushing it a little bit too far, but overall I was like, yeah, that's fine. It also did it in like a pretty humorous way, I thought too,
right,
for most of it, like with the whole patriarchy thing and like Ken not really understanding it and just like thinking it's about like horses and trucks and stuff or whatever, and just
right.
like I don't know, just like the way that he went about it or whatever. Like it did it in a funny way, kind of like what American Fiction, where it has a message, but it goes about it in like a humorous way instead
hmm
of just trying to be message. You know.
Yeah, agree with
Mhm.
that.
I think if you look at the full nominees of Best Picture, Barbie should win as it's one of the most unique, if not most unique, movie last year. I don't think I would agree that it should win Best Picture. I will say that it is pretty unique. Like if anything, if Barbie will win for anything, it'll probably be for like costumes or production design. Maybe I'm Just Ken will win Best Original Song.
That's
Um,
true.
I think they're performing it at the Oscars. That song.
That's gonna be interesting.
um, but I don't think Barbie will win. I think why it got so much money, like why it made so much money, is because it's a recognizable property with um, recognizable actors in it, and and so like not to like put a blanket statement down, but like all the teenage girls wanted to go see Barbie, and so
Well, yeah, that's true too.
and like the Barbenheimer thing marketed itself. The internet kind of marketed it itself.
Yeah, that's true too.
How likely do you think Barbie will be to win Best Picture?
Um, I think it has a chance, but I don't know. I think it's probably up there. I would imagine, just
Yeah,
because it was one of the more popular movies last year.
yeah, it was definitely really popular. Um, I'd say it's around the middle of the list if I were to take a guess. Um, Barbie's just like the odd one to me. Like it doesn't, like, it makes sense why it's there, but it also doesn't make sense. It's just like an odd pick. Like so far, we've already talked about Holdovers, American Fiction, and Zone of Interest. All
Mm,
three of those films are a little bit more artsy. I get, well, definitely Zone of Interest or like dramas and stuff, and
mm,
Barbie's like this satirical comedy,
right.
and so it doesn't really, I don't want to say fit the criteria for what the Oscars usually go for
Mm.
in what they nominate. So I don't know. I just don't think it'll win, but I think it has a better chance of winning over something like Zone of Interest, probably.
Oh yeah, easy.
Hmm. Next up is Oppenheimer. Do you want to start? I'll let you go first for Oppenheimer.
Yeah, so I've actually only watched this once. I did pick it up on 4K. I haven't got a chance to rewatch it. It is a longer movie. Um, Honestly, I really didn't have like I would say like I didn't really know a lot of the subject matter. It's definitely a movie that is very dialogue driven. Definitely have to pay attention to um, a lot of stuff that is going on through just a lot of people kind of talking back and forth to each other because it's not one of those movies that has like a ton of action. And I think for some, I think when they went into this movie, I think some people thought that, but like I know it took a while before it got to, when they dropped the bomb and everything
Yeah,
like that.
the Trinity test. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and I remember for me, like the towards like maybe like the 2 hour 20-minute mark, I was starting to feel the runtime a little bit, um, just because of the very heavy dialogue, and it is a slower movie. I'd be intrigued to see how I feel about it on a rewatch. But I believe I gave it a 3 out of 5. I remember. So I mean that means I like it in my ranking system. I don't think I overly loved it like a lot of the majority of the crowd. I personally believe it's probably gonna win Best Picture. I personally would not pick it Best Picture myself, though.
Yeah. I think I gave this one like a 4 out of 5, which
Hmm.
when I give something 4 out of 5, I'm like, yeah, that's really good.
Hmm.
That's kind of like the verbiage I would use to describe a 4 out of 5.
Hmm.
Um, I'll also echo that sentiment. I think this will win Best Picture. Like I'm pretty certain it'll win. Like I'd be willing to bet money on that, just
Hmm.
because I just think it's just gonna be that film this year. It's gonna be like one of those Return of the King situations where it wins like everything it's nominated for, I think. Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, this was one of my most anticipated films last year because I really like Christopher Nolan. He's always a he always does something interesting with his films. Um, yeah, even if it's something I don't enjoy all that much, like Tenet, it's still a very interesting film to watch because
Hmm.
he's always trying something, instead of just, oh, this works, we'll just keep doing this one thing. He always wants to expand and do other things.
Right.
Uh, and so Christopher Nolan wanting to do a historical biopic was always interesting. And then like seeing just the probably like the most stacked cast ever, like just signing onto this film was just getting me more excited to this when you just hear like three more big names get added to this film every week. It seemed like when all the reports were first coming out. Um, so I was very much looking forward to this one. And to a certain extent, I was a little disappointed with it, but I still think it's a very good film. Um, I don't it wasn't even in like my top 20 of the year last year, which is kind of blasphemy to a lot of people who had it as like their number one or top five. It felt like most
Right.
people did. Um, the thing that didn't work for me in this film, like the big glaring negative, is that you're telling a historical biopic, and I don't think Nolan's way of having multiple timelines going on at the same time or like telling part of the story that's later on, like the way he always does that, uh, that didn't feel like it fit the movie very well. Like if I want to watch a historical biopic, I want it to be a pretty solid through line of events just going from point A to point B and
Hmm.
not like jumping all around the timeline in place. Um, so that was like my big negative with the film. Um, it does start to I don't want to say drag, but you start to notice the runtime.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
like after the like you said 2 hour 30-minute mark, like pretty much after the Trinity test scene, it kind of feels like it loses some steam to it.
Mhm.
Something I appreciated about the film too is that like they stuck true to like the historical biopic part of it to where it's not trying to be this huge spectacle film, because
Mhm.
really the only spectacle you see in this film is the Trinity test. Which side note, that was one of the best theater moments of last year for me, because
Mhm.
it's the film is just silent. I was in an entirely packed theater. No one made a single sound for like that whole 2 minutes of silence where it's just the bomb going off, and it was just visually stunning. Just the eerie silence. It was just so mesmerizing. Um, and so like that being the only spectacle part of it, and then it moves on to the usage of these bombs in World War II on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and it doesn't like glorify those events.
Mhm.
It's not like, oh, let's drop bombs on people and show it for spectacle and entertainment. You just hear about it, you see people's reactions to it, and people dealing with this guilt of developing the technology that caused so many people to die.
Mhm.
And so I think that's a smart way to go about those events and stay true to your historical biopic while not um, making entertainment out of those events.
Yeah, there's definitely some messed up things that happen, especially after he gets that bomb to work and everything like that. The stuff that he goes through, you're just like, this is messed up.
hmm The film also ends on a note where you're like, where you just sit there and like that final exchange between Oppenheimer and Einstein, and like
Mhm.
the final lines where he's like, where they're like, "I believe we did," when they're talking about if they destroyed the world or whatever,
Mhm.
and then, like, the movie ends and you're like, ugh, you just, like, feel the sense of unease or whatever that, like, this stuff exists in the world and, like, could destroy humanity or whatever, I
Yeah,
guess. So it kinda, like, leaves you in a state of existential crisis walking out of the theater.
for sure.
But I saw, on Twitter or X, I always call it Twitter still,
I still do
um
too.
yeah, they're discussing film, and then there's, like, a parody account called Disbussing Film, and they
Oh
did, like, their own Oscars thing, and, like, one of their categories is, like, Best Supporting Actor in Oppenheimer as, like, its
God.
own separate award. I'm like,
That's funny.
I thought it was pretty funny because, like, just because there's so many people and it's, like, there's not, like, a weak performance in the film, I would say. I felt like everyone,
Yeah,
like, brought their A game and, like, showed up to, um, do the best they could.
yeah, definitely.
If not Barbie, 100% Poor Things. Yeah. I know you really like that one. Oh, that's the next one too, Poor Things.
Okay.
So, um, I'll go first for this one. So, the first time I saw this film, I didn't like it very much. I think I gave it like a 2 out of 5 the first time I watched it, like in
Oh wow.
December, because like there was just like to a certain extent, not as far as zone of interest, but where there's just, like, a certain amount of weird stuff in the film, like, when Willem Dafoe would do, like, that bubble burp thing, and I'm like,
That was
"What?"
weird.
What is this?" Or just, like, I don't know, just trying to get acclimated to this weird world, I guess,
Mhm.
and it not necessarily being what I thought it was gonna be. I thought it was gonna be, like, some weird version of Frankenstein, which
Yeah.
and I guess it is, but I didn't expect it to be what Poor Things is. And watching it, I was tracking along with it, and then it just to me, the thing that held this movie back from me enjoying it the first time is 100% spoilers to explain this, but when you have the brain of an infant get implanted into a full-grown woman, and then the full-grown woman starts exploring sexually, but kinda has, like, the mentality of a child, I guess, in a way. I just thought that was really wrong. And I
It's
was like,
definitely different.
yeah, I just couldn't, like, get invested into what was happening when like Bella signs up to live in like this sex house or whatever towards the end, and
Oh yeah.
like and just in my head I'm like, this is like a child doing this stuff, like that's just so wrong or whatever, and I just like couldn't get over that the entire time I watched it for the first time. So I walked out, I was like, I just didn't enjoy that. And then I wanted to rewatch it before the Best Picture nominees because at the time on Letterboxd, it was the movie that I had rated lower than the entire average, like ever. Like I gave it like a 2. The average is like a 4.2 on
Oh
Letterboxd. And I was
wow.
like, dang, that is just so far low. Like something's wrong with me. And so I rewatched it and I enjoyed it quite a bit more. I got over my reservation about it the first time because there was a line of dialogue about like she's aging mentally at an accelerated rate, I guess,
Right.
or something to that extent. And so then that kind of alleviated a lot of that worry from me. Um, I was able to enjoy the film more. Um, there's like a lot of comedic moments, especially with Mark Ruffalo's character. Just
Oh yeah.
so much absurd stuff he says and does. Um, and just like the way that Bella acts is pretty funny. So I enjoyed it more. I think I gave like upon rewatch, I bumped it up to like a 3.5 out of 5. Not like a film I totally loved, but one that I definitely enjoyed more on a second watch.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know necessarily who I would recommend this film to because it's very like niche and there's a lot of weird shit in the film.
It's a very
um,
sexual film, so some people will be
yeah,
very uncomfortable watching it.
yeah. Um, One thing that I will say from both times that I thought was a little odd was the soundtrack to it. Just like the plucking guitar noise throughout the whole time. I
Hmm.
I don't know. It just wasn't I don't know. I just didn't necessarily resonate with the entire score the whole time. Um, but
They repeated a few.
I guess that's what I'm trying to look for is that it felt very repetitive to me.
Mm.
But all right.
Well,
What do you think about it, right?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, I absolutely enjoyed it. Emma Stone, she's asked to do so much in this movie, and I love the concept. Uh,
Yeah, Emma Stone is much better. I
that's his
I think
whole
she'll
act.
win. I think she'll win for Best Actress,
I'm
probably.
hoping so. Yeah, I
Def
loved her
Definitely
in
a
it.
different type of role for her.
Oh yeah, like it's a lot for her to do, but um, the whole thing with me, like I love the so they kind of do like the Frankenstein thing. There's the backstory with that, and then the way I gathered it is when the film is in black and white, it's kind of how she is with her life. Like there isn't like a full vision of what life is actually like until she gets into when it switches to color. And then she starts kind of developing and finding out things about men and making decisions for herself. And you have Mark Ruffalo, who is really trying to control her, and he's just using her for sex. And she enjoys all that and everything, but she doesn't enjoy the control, and she kind of overcomes all that. The movie, it looks great, like the cinematography and the colors. It looks like a bunch of paintings. I mean,
Mhm.
I love that about it. I mean,
Yeah.
I love the paintings.
It's like a very vibrant film without being like an oversaturation of color, if that makes sense. Where
Yeah.
like the colors all pop, but it's not like neons and stuff. It's just
Mm.
bright yellows and bright blues and stuff.
Yeah, and like I also the costumes I really liked, and I also I like the comedy aspect of it. There's some comedy. I like the part where they're at the dinner table and he's asking her to be proper, and then the baby's crying. She's like, "I want to go punch that baby," and it's like,
Yeah.
it's just there's those funny moments about it, and I like the messaging of it. It's not like just some weird film. Like it has an underlying message to it. I mean, I feel for some, like, obviously they'll think it's very over sexualized at points because there's a lot of sex in it. I mean, she's
Hmm.
naked a lot in that movie. So for some, that'll be uncomfortable. But personally, that doesn't bother me. It never has. Like, nudity doesn't bother me in movies. I mean, for some, I guess, like, maybe, like, it's uncomfortable. I mean, maybe it's uncomfortable. I mean, it's obviously families shouldn't be going to watch this film, obviously. So,
Yeah,
I
that's who
think
you don't recommend this film to. Families with children.
yeah, and what's interesting to me when I went to go to this showing, because this movie took the longest out of all of them to come to my area. Um, there was like all seniors watching this movie, so I thought it was really strange, Um, and I didn't see anybody walk out. I thought like some of the people, like, because they were older, I was thinking, they're not gonna resonate with this kind of movie because I knew it would be artsy. I knew it would be different. It has its dark points. I like Willem Dafoe's look, like he's got the scars and
Yeah, like the
everything.
scars and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
very good
his
look to it.
yeah. Um, and then I thought it was interesting, like he makes the deal with that one guy that's gonna marry her, and then she goes off and does her own thing, and he's waiting on her to come back, and like by then, like she's had sex with everybody.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting how it all plays out, and I thought the ending was funny.
Oh yeah, with like the previous husband or whatever becoming like the
Yeah,
goat,
yeah, I
right?
thought that was
Yeah.
funny, but I thought it was interesting too, like with Willem Dafoe, like how he, like the backstory of this woman that obviously had some issues with her ex husband, and then later on, obviously, you find out like how he was very controlling and all that stuff, and um, but by then, like she already had matured in this new body with this with her brain or whatever. So I liked that she stood up for herself. She realized like that is not what she wanted, and like it was toxic for her. So I just like the message overall of the movie. I definitely feel like it's a well-made movie, and it deserves all the awards as far as I'm concerned. It's my favorite out of them all for sure.
Yeah. I don't even when I first saw it and I gave it like a 2 out of 5, I don't think I would have said it was a bad movie. It was just like a
Mm,
movie I didn't necessarily enjoy all that much.
right.
Sometimes that happens to me when I watch especially artsy films. A lot of times it's movies that I'm like, yeah, that's a well-made film. I didn't particularly enjoy it all that much, or there's just like too much artsy stuff going on.
Hmm.
Like that happens all the time where it's like, yeah, I recognize this is a well-made film, but did I enjoy it all that much? Like I factor all that stuff into how I rate a film too.
Uh,
So yeah, like I understand where like you're coming from for loving the film. It just didn't like fully resonate with me, I guess. But I
it makes
understand
sense.
why a lot of people are loving it. And
Yeah, I
like
mean, and some,
similar to what
I've,
you were saying about like there being older people in your film or in your
mhm.
theater when you saw this. So when I went to go see it a second time, already knowing what was gonna happen, and I like walk into the theater and I see a bunch of older like older couples, I'm like, geez, how are they gonna deal with
How are they
like
gonna handle it?
yeah, how are they gonna handle this film? I was just like, but
Yeah, it's I think it's good that you gave it another shot though, because there have been artsier films. Like I felt like years ago when I started getting into like different kinds of films like this, films like The Witch were films like maybe 10 years ago, like I didn't appreciate those kinds of films, but like now, like as time has gone along and I'm a critic and I'm watching a lot of different stuff, like there's more appreciation. So I just think a movie like this is just a very unique movie. Like it's just not something you're gonna see often. Um, so I just really enjoyed it for what it was, and it helps too. Like it had a good cast, Willem Dafoe, I feel like he always crushes it in like every role that he's in.
Hmm.
I was very impressed with Mark Ruffalo, because he's not the Hulk for once, something different. So it's
Yeah.
cool to see him in a different role. And then just Emma Stone, like being in something completely different. You know what I mean? She's been in comedies and she's been in some other films, but I really think that this is a film that is really gonna stick with her for a while. Like I feel like she should get some kind of recognition for it. So I feel like she will, but we'll see and we'll wait.
Yeah, I'll have to look at the nominees for Best Actress, but I know she got nominated. Um, and upon rewatching the film and it being more fresh in my mind, um, I think she has a pretty good chance at it.
Hmm.
So next up, we have Past Lives. So, would you like to start for Past Lives?
Yeah. So this was one um, that I did not see in the theater. I saw it sometime later. I watched it, I believe. I think I like rented it or something, and eventually bought it. I've watched it now 3 times. This is one that I've watched a few times. I have a lot of relation to this film. Um, Not so much the immigration part of the film, but I said it in my review too. The part of the love story between the two individuals. Um, when I was younger, I struck up a relationship with somebody over the internet, and we've talked for years. I mean, we still talk. I mean, we're friends now, but we had that relationship where it kind of got into the romantic kind of things. And I visited her and everything like that. So like I really resonated with that portion of the film, because like in this film, obviously different circumstances with the fact with like the immigration and all that. But I think like the toughest part of it, obviously they're on two different parts of the country, and them just trying to figure out what they're doing and then like having their own life as well. It's very difficult, especially when someone's on the other side of the world. It's a very well shot film. I mean, there's so many good shots of like New York, down by the river. Camera work's really good. Uh, it's definitely a film where I feel like it's a film where I can watch again and again because it's like I like the connection with it, and I guess because I have so much relation to the subject, it's very easy for me to recommend and just kind of watch and just see um, just the thought that was put into it and like the work was done with it. Um, the music was kind of chill in it, which was cool. Um, yeah, I mean, I just enjoyed it overall. I mean, I think like the acting was good. I mean, the ending, yeah. I mean, but
Yeah.
that's how it is. You know what I mean? It's just that's how it was going to be for like their fate and everything. It makes sense.
Hmm.
The only thing I
So,
didn't like, I'm going to say before you say your thoughts, the only thing I didn't like about it was I didn't like in the beginning where they showed her, the guy that she was with, like already there in the beginning of the film.
oh yeah, like
I
at the
did not
very
like that.
beginning. Hmm.
Didn't like that.
So, similarly to you, I did not see this film in theaters or whatever. I hadn't heard about it at all until I was like on the letterboxed subreddit on Reddit, just like reading through comments and stuff all the time, just
Mhm.
looking at movie stuff. And I just kept seeing this film, Past Lives, and I'm like, what is this film that everyone's talking about? And it's like, this film's awesome. It's like my favorite of the year. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll check this out. And I saw that it came on Blu-ray like November, December or
Mhm.
something. And so I picked it up and then I watched it and I was like, yeah, that was really good. But it's like not my favorite of the year. It probably wasn't even in my top 20, but I still really enjoyed it.
Mhm.
Um, I think it has a certain amount of relatability for everyone, whether or not it's like the relationship aspect or not, of where it's just like kind of accepting fate in a way, or just like accepting that this is how life is, even though we'd want it to be this way, we wish it could have been this way, but it's kind of this other way now. Like,
Right.
in whatever capacity that takes form in someone's life, I think everyone can relate to that. Like you said, it's a very well made film.
Mhm.
um, like from a technical side. um, it's just, it's not something I necessarily gravitate towards all that much, because it is a more talky film, more subtle film.
Mhm.
um, I'm not I'm not huge into foreign films very much. Like, I can watch them and appreciate them, but most of them are more of like a one-time watch and then done type deal for me.
Mhm.
Um, so it's just not something I necessarily look for all the time, but um, I really enjoyed it. In a certain way, it felt, well, this would be a weird comparison. It felt like Parasite this year,
Okay.
but without like the massive amounts of praise for it. I think Parasite's way more praise than this film, but
Yeah.
it kind of in a way felt like Parasite, which is like the drama and stuff, just the way it was done. Because I'm pretty sure they're both Korean films, if I'm not wrong.
I think so, yeah.
Um, so I mean that's kind of expected, that they're like similarly made and structured and whatever. But
Mhm.
yeah. Um, Next up is Anatomy of a Fall, the other foreign film that got nominated. Um, so I didn't see any marketing or anything for this one. I just kind of went and saw it one day. There was like one showing like ever for this film where I live, and so I went and saw it. And I enjoyed it. It felt like it was a little bit too long for me. Um, Also, I didn't really like the way it wrapped up necessarily, without giving you a definitive answer of what happened. Like, I guess in a way I can kind of appreciate that, because it's like you go through the whole trial, then the jury makes up their decision, and in a way you're supposed to make up your decision, and the movie's not
Mhm.
supposed to tell you exactly what happened. But for
Mhm.
my own personal taste, I would rather the movie told you definitively what happened, like whether or not she was actually guilty or actually not guilty, and not just their verdict.
Yeah.
Um, but as far as like a courtroom drama investigation type thing, um, I really dug it. Like seeing all the different evidence that was brought in, the excuse me, like the way that they show them like investigating the house in a way, like
Mhm.
with her son. I also thought that was a really interesting aspect, that the only witness to this was their blind son, and
Mhm.
like and them trying to get him to testify and whatever, and then like the difficulties that could come from that, of like, well, is he actually reliable? How much does he actually know, remember? Um, and then just like digging up all this evidence and stuff too. I just thought was really nice. I also liked the, I don't know if aesthetic's the right word, but like the snowy aesthetic of like this house and stuff, and I really enjoyed the setting of their house.
Yeah.
Um, there were a lot of memorable scenes in it. Something funny that I saw was like the opposing lawyer in Anatomy of the Fall, and then Jason Clarke's character in Oppenheimer. I saw something that's like, why are both the these people like the meanest lawyers or whatever, that came out of 2023? Something I thought that was pretty funny, because in both movies they're just like grilling the other side the whole time.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I enjoyed Anatomy of a Fall quite a bit.
Yeah, for me, like, I definitely would agree that it's a little too long. I think it could have been shortened maybe about 2 hours. 2.5 hours is a little long, I think, because I felt like the trial got a little repetitive. like going back to the
Yeah.
courtroom.
Yeah, I would agree.
Um, I think if it was going to win something, maybe cinematography because of like the snow and that whole atmosphere with the house.
Mhm.
Um,
I think if it'll win something, I think it'll win best foreign film.
okay. Yeah.
Usually, from what I've noticed happens if a foreign film gets nominated for Best Picture, it'll win Best Foreign Film.
Hmm.
Um, Even though Past Lives and Anatomy of a Fall are both foreign films, and I guess Zone of Interest too. I think Anatomy of a Fall is the best of the three, but
Now I heard some gossip on this film that apparently it was snubbed for some type of a nomination. I don't remember what it was. Because there's some like friction between the director and like the government in France or something, and like one of the panelists is like on the picking of this Oscar panel. I don't know if that's true, but if it is, that's really crazy. Um,
yeah.
but
Oh,
I mean,
Holland says France didn't submit it. They submitted something that no one saw.
oh,
So
okay. Yeah, I thought there was some friction between him and somebody like the prime. I guess it's a prime minister in France. I don't know. Um, that's what I thought, but I could be wrong. Um, but yeah, it's one of those films. Like I did see it's getting a Criterion release.
I think I
Um,
saw that too. I don't know if I'd necessarily pick this film up. I
I
mean,
wouldn't.
if I saw it, maybe if it wasn't Criterion and I saw it like just normal Blu-ray and it was like 10 or so bucks maybe, but
Yeah,
I definitely wouldn't pay the Criterion fee for it.
yeah,
I probably wouldn't do 20 bucks on it either. But I
yeah.
mean,
It's just getting a Blu-ray. It's not getting a 4K at least for now. But um, yeah, it's one of those films where like I definitely can appreciate aspects of it. Um, I think I gave it a 3 out of 5. I think, but I don't. I think it's more of a one-time watch for me, though. I don't think it's something that I would rush to revisit personally.
yeah.
And it's not a movie I would recommend watching later
Yeah.
at night.
Yeah.
You might fall
It's
asleep.
it
It
is it is like pretty talky and stuff. I guess like Oppenheimer
is.
and stuff like it. There's not a whole lot of there's no spectacle going on here. Um
Yeah.
like and I guess if you're into stuff like that, it does it very well. It's not I don't know if this is the right way to phrase it. It's not very entertaining. It's just very well made. If that makes sense.
Hmm.
Um and I would agree that this isn't really something I'm looking to watch all the time, but it is something that I'd be like, like if someone was just like scrolling through Amazon Prime or something, I was just hanging out with someone and like, hey, do you want to watch this film Anatomy of a Fall? I'd be like, yeah, sure. It's not like something I'd be like, no, don't watch that. I'd be like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, like I enjoyed it enough to where I would watch it again, but it
Mhm.
wouldn't be like my first pick to do it. But
And it's another film that isn't. It wasn't very accessible. Like I had to wait
oh
for it to come to home viewing to rent it because
yeah,
I mean, I think my theater maybe had like one showing, and
yeah,
I see now that it has like maybe one showing in a couple theaters. But
yeah, because a lot of theaters are doing like the putting all the best picture nominees in theaters
right,
so you can see them. And so there's two theater chains where I live, and
hmm,
then like in Alamo Draft House, which is a
okay,
theater chain, but there's only one where I live,
uh,
and they usually get the more art house stuff and whatever. And so the
okay,
two normal theater chains didn't get this film, and
mm,
the Alamo Draft House did, and there was like two showings for it, like
yeah,
ever. And so I was like, I'll pick one and go see it. So
yeah, like
I didn't think this had a whole lot of buzz surrounding it, but
no,
I don't know. Which I don't know. I feel like this is a film that I would want to that I could see myself recommending to people because I just think it's a very well made film. If like people like good dramas, I think I could see myself
courtroom drama.
recommending this. Yeah, courtroom dramas and stuff.
Mhm.
I could see myself recommending this one more so than something like Poor Things that's very out there.
Hmm.
that I think has a very niche audience. I think this one has more broad appeal and stuff. Um,
Hmm.
so I don't want to say I wouldn't say it's I would say it's underseen probably out of all
Hmm.
of these. The one that I think that I wish more people would have seen would be Anatomy of a Fall out of probably everything on this list.
Yeah.
Then we have Maestro. So, would you like to go for Maestro there?
I did not like this film at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, that
Uh,
in like every single list that I've seen of like ranking the best picture nominees or whatever, this is the bottom on like every single one without like change or whatever.
I felt like this one was definitely way too long. I didn't really agree with the black and white aspect ratio that
Yeah, because
he tried to do.
isn't it like that aspect ratio the entire film? The
I
the
don't think it was
square?
the entire film, but because it
Oh
switches up the
no,
color.
I'm thinking of another film. I watched The Lighthouse the other day for the first time. That's what I'm thinking of.
Oh yeah,
A
yeah,
black and white film that's a square.
yeah.
Uh,
It switches up. But I feel like Bradley Cooper was really trying too hard here to try to win an Oscar. I really do.
yeah,
I
out
wasn't.
of every film on this list, this one is just like the most Oscar bait. One of them,
Yeah,
I think.
I just wasn't really interested in his life that much personally. Um,
Mhm.
I feel similar about the subject matter as I did Tar last year because I didn't like Tar.
Yeah,
I
Holland.
know.
Holland just said that. Do you guys prefer this or Tar?
Man, I didn't like either one, Holland. So I don't know. They
I
both would be torturous to watch again.
I would say Tar, for me,
Mhm.
just because I don't know. I felt Tar was I don't know, more appealing to me
I think the character was more of an asshole, if I remember.
in Tar. Yeah,
Yeah,
she was terrible person, but I kind of
yeah.
in a sick and twisted way, I kind of enjoyed it seeing like just how terrible of a person she was.
Hmm.
So I would say this Tar over Maestro. But anyways,
Gotcha.
continue, sir.
Yeah, yeah. I never really got into like his character that much. I kind of felt like the love story was kind of boring.
Yeah.
Didn't really intrigue me very much. I thought it was interesting that he was gay, and then all of a sudden he kind of switched over and he ended up marrying her. And um, obviously there was friction in their relationship. Um, but I don't know. I didn't really get into the story really at all. It was very hard to finish. I actually had to do a couple viewings to finish this one.
Mm.
It was a tough one to watch.
Yeah. So this is actually the last film I watched last year in
Oh,
2023. Like the 152nd new release I saw last year. The last one I watched.
oof.
And and I and going into it, I was like, okay, this is just kind of be like an Oscar bait type film. And it very much just feels like that. The whole time
Mhm.
is just like we're trying super hard to win an Oscar. Like yes, Bradley Cooper gives an awesome performance, or not awesome, but a really good performance as Leonard Bernstein. Just like the way he talks, the prosthetics and stuff. It just
Yeah.
it really feels like he went all in on this character. Um, I mean, it's shot pretty well. Um, the when I was in high school and stuff, I was in choir and stuff, and so we would always um I don't know, like I don't want to say like listen to classical music like that, but I kind of understand classical or like musical terms and stuff. There was one time we sung with the symphony um, here,
Mhm.
and so like I kind of understand this world of stuff. Kind of why I enjoyed Tar, I guess, more so than I think a lot of people did because I kind of understood what was happening. Because in Tar, they just kind of drop you into this world of music and just like start dropping all these music terms and stuff. And as I'm watching, I'm like, I don't really think a lot of people are going to understand a lot of the lingo they're using.
Yeah, I
I
didn't
guess.
watch that.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, um, like, there's certain elements to this film I enjoyed. It's like it's teetering on the edge between 2.5 and 3 stars for me on Letterboxd. I think I gave it 3 just because it's, like, a well-made film, I guess.
Yeah,
Um, and I enjoyed Bradley Cooper's performance. But the thing that I didn't really care for all that much in this film is, like, if I'm watching a biopic of someone's life, I kinda want to know about their entire life and not, like, their love life, I guess.
right,
Um, and so I just wasn't it does wasn't really what I wanted, I guess. Um, and we just and to a certain extent, I'm kind of burnt out on music figures biopics. Like we have Bohemian Rhapsody, Rocket Man, this to a certain extent, Yesterday was kind of the Beatles one.
yep,
We just got Bob Marley earlier this year. It's like I'm
which
just
wasn't very good.
no, was not. That's that's an even bigger culprit of focusing in on just a specific event in a person's life instead of the whole life.
Yeah,
Is
I didn't
one
care for it
form
at all.
of
I mean,
yeah.
with that movie, like just 2 years of his life, and like there was a good review I saw on Rotten Tomatoes where it said like you pretty much would have to Google his life pretty much if you wanted to know more after a movie like that.
Yeah, like
I
one of the first events in the film is him getting shot by someone, and you're like,
right.
and I'm sitting there like, why is he getting shot? Like I don't understand.
Well, that and it just goes like I wanted to learn more about like how did he become that successful
Yeah,
musician? Like what was his
that's what
big
I thought it
break?
was going to be.
Right,
Was
and
going to
then
be how Bob Marley like became recognized and stuff.
the other thing is like how did he get discovered to like get the recording time? How did he come up with the songs, like certain songs and phrases? Like everything's gonna be all right. I would have loved to know like is that something like he just like came up in his head or like because of like all the political stuff that was going on? Like I don't know. They don't dive into that, and then it ended terribly. I hated the ending. Just a
Yeah.
lot of exposition too. So yeah, I didn't like that either. But biopics are hard, but it's very hard to find a good one. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I don't think I dislike this film as much as everyone. I wouldn't. I'm like teetering on the edge of like, do I like it? Do I not? You know.
Mm,
I think. Excuse me. I think for me, I kind of give it a little bit of an edge just because I think it's a very well made film, even though I
mm,
did in like in all the aspects besides the story itself.
I got you.
I thought the uh, I thought the scene where he like that one long take where he's conducting the orchestra or whatever, I thought that was a really good scene in the film
Hmm.
for some
Yeah,
middle
it's
book.
be intense.
Yeah, where he's like where he's like all sweaty and like practically dancing around and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then finally, the last one to talk about, Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon, the 3.5 hour long film that for some reason I watched twice. Um, so I was pretty excited for this because obviously Martin Scorsese's just like one of the biggest directors ever. You know, like pretty much everything he puts out is good without fail.
Hmm.
Um, all the Martin Scorsese films I've seen, I've at least given like a 3.5 stars or higher to, which is a pretty good track record for a director. And I mean, he's been doing this for what, like 50 years now, making movies, so he
Oh
knows what
yeah.
he's doing. Um, he gets his classics and DiCaprio and De Niro back, and they both
Mhm.
give great performances. You have Lily Gladstone kind of coming out of nowhere and holding her own against these actors that are very well known.
Mhm.
Um, it it takes its time to like put you in this world and like show you all these horrific events and just kind of like in a way beats you over the head with it of just like how horrific this stuff is.
Oh yeah.
Um, and then when you get into the court aspect of it, and then you get like John Lithgow and Brendan Fraser in there, and like this whole investigation into it, I thought that was the most interesting part of the film. I wish it just came like an hour earlier in the film. Um, Really, the only main negative thing I have towards this film is that it's just way too long. Like 3.5 hours is a massive ask from everyone. Like
Mm.
I don't know. We're getting to that time where like movies, like a short movie's like 2 hours now. It's no longer an hour and a half movie short. It's like if you have a movie that's 2 hours or less, it's short. Anything
Yeah.
like 2 to 3 hours is normal length now, pretty much.
Oh yeah.
Um, but this movie's just long.
Oh yeah.
That
It
that's
definitely.
like that's like the only thing that holds me from watching it more. Is just pure length of it.
Mm.
Um, and Apple TV does this weird thing where every single one of their films they go and put out in theaters. It's like why even have originals anymore then to get people to watch your stuff like this and Napoleon were both Apple TV movies and they're like, just go to theaters to see it. And it's like,
Yeah.
what? Like I don't know. I just find that weird.
It is strange.
But yeah, I just think it's a really good film made by a really phenomenal director, a phenomenal cast and everything. Um, so
Yeah, I think for me, I was very daunted by the runtime, so I did not elect to watch it in a theater. 3.5 hours is very long, and I think the subject matter is what turned me off because I guess you could classify it under the Western genre, but I would say that's my least favorite genre personally. Getting into that kind of genre, shot well for sure. Definitely some tragic events in this movie. Not a movie that you can kind of casually watch, I would say.
oh no, no. Did you when you
um,
watch this, did you do it in one sitting or did you break it up?
so I had to watch this twice.
The
I
whole film
originally,
twice?
well, I originally watched it the first time about an hour and a half, and I'm like, this is a little heavy. Gonna have to return to this. So then I went back and I rewatched the hour and a half from before, and then watched the rest of it. I had to go back because it's just it was a lot.
Yeah.
um, it was very. I mean, it's very visually stunning. There's a lot of very messed up things going on in the film for sure.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, the stuff that they're doing to these people, um,
It's just horrific to like
yeah,
learn
I
about it.
mean,
It makes you even sadder to realize that this was based off real events and like this stuff actually happened. It's like,
right.
damn, that's messed up.
And you could definitely tell that women, if they were any way tried to be outspoken, they were handled. Um, Specifically, the sister in this, one of the sisters of Lily Gladstone, because she's handled right away. Like they're not going to put up with that. So um, there definitely was politics involved in what they were doing. Just messed up with the insurance thing too. Like
Hmm.
that's just messed up. I mean, it really is. Score wise, I like the score, but I also noticed that it can be repetitive in parts. There are some songs that repeat themselves, which I did notice. Um, Acting wise, I think it's good. A lot of people thought that I've seen think that Lily Gladstone should win Best Actress. Um, I liked her performance, but I
Yeah.
think I like Emma Stone better personally.
Yeah.
Um,
I think Emma Stone. I liked Emma Stone's performance better. I
mhm,
think what makes Lily Gladstone's performance stand out is that she's going against Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro in a Scorsese film, and
right.
she's like right there with them, and like
Mhm,
is like competing with them to be the best performer in the movie.
right. Yeah, I think for me, I guess the genre is tough for me to completely love this film. I didn't hate it by any means, but it was a struggle to get through that runtime. I'm not sure exactly like if they could cut this down, what they could cut it down to. But I definitely think for a 3.5 hour movie, there should be like an intermission or something like at a theater because
Yeah.
it's very long.
I somehow, when I saw this in theaters, made it the whole 3.5 hours without getting up once to do anything. I
Yeah,
literally
that's tough.
sat in that chair for 3.5 hours, and I like stood up and I was like, "Jeez."
Yeah, and I think that's what hurts the film overall because what directors and theaters need to understand is when you make a 3.5 hour movie like this, and it's not like a Dune where like it's like mainstream. Like it's definitely more of a selective audience. Um, I and the subject matter and just I think the genre is a little bit different than like a Dune or something like that because that's more of a built-in property. This is an original, so to speak.
And
Um,
the main draw to this film is just it's a Scorsese film.
right. I
Like
think
he's like one of the three directors that any new movie he puts out, it
mhm,
doesn't matter what it's about, it's a Scorsese film, people will go see it.
right. But I do think that the runtime hurt this film because if you think about it, you gotta plan for trailers too. So now you're 4 hours at a theater. Your drive time to get to the theater, your drive to get home from the theater, and if you don't live close to a theater, I mean, you could be spending 5 hours out of your day
Mhm.
just to watch this movie. You know what I mean? Like if you don't live
Yeah.
close or something. I know for me, um, most of my theaters they're not near me, so it would be at least a half an hour drive. So factoring that in plus trailers, I mean it's a 5 hour experience. It's a long time to commit. So
Mhm.
I understand this is probably a movie that probably does better on Apple TV or whatever rather than theater. And I think that kind of that's what hurt like money wise for this film. Like
Which
it's still
which is
recognized, and I think it's gonna be well known as far as like the acting and everything and how it's shot and everything. But I think it's a film that you kind of have to rethink your strategy a little bit because it is long.
which which is weird for me. I think it's weird that, like, this film, historical movie where it's a lot of people talking for 3.5 hours. Then you have Oppenheimer, a historical movie that's people talking for 3 hours, which almost made $1 billion. They made, like,
Hmm.
900 something. And it's like, that's just weird to me that, like, Oppenheimer performs so well at the box office opposed to Killers of the Flower Moon, and in a sense, it's kinda like the same thing, you know? Just like this drama that's super long that people just talk, and so that's just weird to me, but, like,
Well, I think also too, Oppenheimer got the push because it's looped in with Barbie. So the people that watch Barbie were going, "Oh, what's this Oppenheimer movie?" They got looped together. It was in dead of summer. There was nothing else around other than I think they had like Mission Impossible, which is a completely different fan base than these two movies.
Mhm.
Then you have Killers of the Flower Moon that was released in October.
In
Um,
October, most of your box office is going to horror films in October.
right.
So,
So it was
yeah,
released in a different
that might be
time.
part of it. May I guess part of it too is, even though I love Scorsese and stuff, I think right now in the cinematic landscape, Christopher Nolan's a bigger name because he's, like, the new up and coming director, I guess, even though he's been around for,
Right.
like, 2 decades. He hasn't been around for 5 decades like Scorsese, and so I think I think people have just come to expect great films from Scorsese and just know that they're gonna get a great film from him, and they'll watch
Hmm.
it eventually because they know it'll be good. Whereas Nolan is always doing, like I said earlier, is always doing something different, whereas Scorsese does mob films. And that's like it, right?
It
Um,
makes sense.
I guess I get it, but to a certain extent, it's still a little weird to me, but, um, I'll some other things I thought of about this film is that I appreciate Leonardo DiCaprio's character because he plays like a dipshit in the film in like the nicest way.
Right.
Just plays like the dumbest guy ever, and it's like funny, but in a bad way because he's doing all this horrific stuff and like doesn't necessarily understand all the inner workings and stuff of what's going on.
Hmm.
Um, Also, my experience with this film was so weird because this was the same time the Taylor Swift movie was in theaters.
Oh yeah.
And so the theater next to me was playing that, and this film's pretty quiet and stuff. Uh-oh.
We're good. We're back.
Oh, we're good. Okay. And so this film's a little bit quieter, and so you're getting the scenes of like people just getting shot in the back of the head, you know?
Yeah.
And you have like Taylor Swift faintly playing in the background.
Exactly.
I'm like, geez, this is not mixed whatsoever.
Yeah, I
Um,
know.
but yeah. All right. Would you like to share your ranking of all these
Yeah.
films from worst to best, and then also share in there when you say each film in your
Hmm.
ranking, like how likely you think it is to win Best Picture?
Okay. Let's see. I wrote it down. There's it right here. Okay. So you want me to go least liked to most liked?
Sure, whichever way you want to go.
Okay, I'll do it. I'll do. Okay. So my number 10 was Zone of Interest. I don't think it has any chance of winning Best Picture at all. Um, yeah, we already talked about that. Didn't really like it.
Yeah.
Maestro is number 9. I don't think it will win Best Picture, but I definitely think it'll win like maybe some type of technical awards, possibly. Uh, 8th was Flower Moon. 7th was The Holdovers. 6th was Anatomy of a Fall. And in all these, I Holdovers, I definitely feel like has some buzz as well. And obviously, I think some awards for Flower Moon, and like we kind of discussed, like Anatomy of a Fall, maybe something in the foreign market for them for
Yeah.
awards. Barbie's number 5, which I think will probably win something in like costume or makeup or song, something around there for awards. American Fiction number 4, which I think Jeffrey Wright has a shot at winning Best Actor. And then Oppenheimer number 3, which I think will win Best Picture. And Past Lives number 2, which I don't think has any shot at all. And Poor Things, which I do think will win some awards as well because it was nominated for quite a bit.
All right. Well, I agree with your bottom two in the exact placements of them. So I have Zone of Interest at number 10. I don't see this film winning a,
Mm-hmm.
a lot, if anything. If anything, it might win something for like sound design, maybe,
Maybe.
but I don't think so. Number 9, I have Maestro, and I, I don't think it'll win, but it has like maybe like a 1% chance or something, just because it's so art house and it's trying so hard to get an Oscar. I could be like, okay, maybe they're gonna give it something. Yeah, I think Maestro will win something maybe,
Oh
but
yeah.
it won't be Best Picture. I don't think it would be Best Actor for Bradley Cooper, even though he does really good. Um, but then number 8, I have Poor Things. And I think it's between Poor Things and Barbie for like costume design and production design. I think one of those two films are either going to get both or they'll split them one out of one. But then number 7, I have Anatomy of a Fall, which I think will win Best Foreign Picture.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6, I have Barbie, which, like I said, with Poor Things, the costume design stuff, but I think it'll win Best Original Song.
Mm-hmm.
It's got 2 nominations for Best Original Song, actually. So like statistically, it has the best chance, but
Yeah.
um, I think it'll just win for I'm Just Ken, just because it's such a memorable and fun song.
Plus, they're gonna do that performance we were talking about.
Yeah,
So
last year when they performed RRR at the Oscars and then that won, um, I think since they're performing I'm Just Ken, it's like, yeah, this is the best song, so let's perform it and then it'll win.
right.
Number 5 will be Past Lives. I'm not sure how many awards this would win, if any. Definitely not Best Picture.
Yeah.
Number 4, I have American Fiction, which I could see Jeffrey Wright being like the dark horse for Best Actor, but I think Cillian Murphy would get it for Oppenheimer, which Oppenheimer's my number 3 as well. Um, I think Oppenheimer's gonna sweep in like visuals, sound, score, cinematography, Best Actor, Supporting Actress, screenplays, director. Like I just think Oppenheimer's gonna clean house this year. Um, which I don't know, doesn't make watching the Oscars all that interesting, I guess, this year
Yeah.
to me, because I'm just like, okay, Oppenheimer's just gonna win everything, instead of there not being like a clear choice for everything, so it's kind of a mystery, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know. Maybe there'll be some surprises, but I think Oppenheimer's just gonna clear house this year. Number 2 is Killers of the Flower Moon for me. Um, this one will probably win a few things, maybe like 2 or 3 awards.
Yeah.
Then my favorite was The Holdovers, which it's gonna be for me. It would either be Paul Giamatti or Cillian Murphy for Best Actor. Otherwise, I don't see this one winning a whole lot of stuff. Um,
I feel like it's one of the more
yeah,
liked ones that's smaller.
yeah, The Holdovers. I So if Oppenheimer doesn't win Best Picture in whatever weird world that is, what film do you think has the second best chance to win?
Oh man, I mean, I don't know because it depends how the board thinks really. Because like you could say like Barbie was really popular, but Holdovers has a lot of buzz too.
Yeah, I would. If it's not Oppenheimer, I'd say I want to say like Holdovers, Killers, or Poor Things.
Like I just don't feel like like quite a bit of these don't have buzz. Like Zone of Interest, Maestro, Anatomy of a Fall, American
Pat
Fiction,
Past Lives.
Past Lives. Like five, those five right there. I don't feel they have any buzz to even have close to, of a chance to win. And I
Yeah,
don't think a lot of people have seen quite a bit of those. Past Lives maybe, but American Fiction wasn't very accessible. Zone of Interest wasn't. Maestro, I don't know if a lot of people watched it on Netflix or not personally, but and then
I think
Anatomy
a
of a
lot of
Fall,
people. I think a lot of people only watch Maestro because it was nominated. If I'm being honest.
maybe.
Um, yeah. Are there any movies that you were surprised didn't get nominated? Now that we've gone through everything, like for anything.
Definitely Iron Claw for sure.
Yeah, that I went and saw that a second time, and I that's the movie that I bumped up to my favorite film of last year.
Hmm.
Um, like genuinely pissed off that that Zac Efron didn't get nominated for Best Actor. Like,
Yeah.
if anything, he should have been nominated for that because that's just like that's such a different role for Zac Efron. Like, you hear Zac Efron and you think, oh, like the cool, hangout, chill bro type guy.
Hmm.
Um, and he doesn't do that in this film. He gives a genuine performance, is like so emotional and stuff. So like that's a pretty big snub. Is Iron Claw. Um, Here I'm gonna look at movies from last year that I have on Letterboxd to see if there's any I thought of I can think
Yeah,
of. But
Iron Claw is kind of like the movie I felt like it was a very good movie, but it's a one time watch for me. It's kind of like The Whale, where it's tough subject matter, real
mhm.
sad, depressing, well
um,
made.
I'm kind of surprised Godzilla minus one didn't get more than it did. It only got like one for visual
Yeah,
effects. I'm kind of surprised about that
I feel
because
like that had a
pretty
very niche
universally
audience.
people,
Yeah.
yeah, but like pretty universally people loved it for the most part.
Yeah, I know it didn't make a ton of money, but it made enough for, um, I guess, the little buzz it was. I mean, it came out like right there in the beginning of December, during a
Yeah,
time when there wasn't much out.
maybe maybe that Ferrari didn't get any, but Ferrari was it didn't get a lot of buzz. It was
I'm
just
cool
kinda
on that.
okay.
That movie, I didn't like that movie.
Yeah, it was just kinda eh,
I
but
didn't care for it. I did think
mm,
Penelope Cruz did pretty good in that, though.
yeah. I I am a little bit shocked that Saltburn didn't get anything because I felt like it was the talk of the town for like 2 weeks there,
Mm,
and it's from what's her name? Emerald Fennell, I think's how you say her
yeah,
name,
Emerald
where
Fennell.
the yeah, because she did Promising Young Woman and got
Yep.
a lot of Oscar buzz a few years ago. Um, so I'm a little bit shocked for that one. Um, how surprised are you that Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey didn't get nominated?
Thank God.
Well, it did so good, we're getting a second one in, like, 2 weeks, so
Yeah, it was supposed to come out in February, and then I guess they moved it to
uh,
March, but I haven't heard much, so I don't know if that's still
it's
March or
like
not.
it's like March 26th,
That's what it
I think.
says, but I don't know if that's really when it's coming out.
It
So I don't know.
it's showing in my local theater on the 26th, 27th, and 28th.
Oh, okay.
So
Well,
me and my dad are gonna go subject ourselves to seeing Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey again in theaters.
oh wow.
And it what makes it worse is Fathom event, so you have to pay, like, $15 a ticket, so
Oh, that's awful.
but we're stupid, so, uh, alright, I'll catch up on some comments from Holland here.
Hmm,
I think this was about Killers of the Flower Moon.
okay.
On his comments, not as hard to get through as The Irishman, but still not engaging enough. I love the book, but I don't love the movie. I think the first 2 hours was very good, but the last hour and a half wasn't as good. I've never seen The Irishman,
I haven't either.
um, and I'm gonna disagree that the last hour and a half wasn't as good. I think the courtroom stuff in Killers of the Flower Moon was the most interesting stuff of the film. It just took forever to get there.
Yeah.
Um, not and I thought the whole film was interesting, and I was engaged with it. It just moved super slow, but
Yeah.
Irishman took me 8 hours to get through over one Sunday. Flowers took me maybe 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Um, then he talks about I think some overseas theaters did an intermission, which it's not supposed to have. There's
Hmm,
always that debate about like long films of like when would you put the intermission or whatever. Like I remember when Endgame was coming out and it was like 3 hours long. People were like, when are they going to put their intermission? I'm like, they're probably not. Um, and then like all the critics and stuff are like, here's when you could go to the bathroom because that's not too important or whatever.
yeah.
But I don't personally, I don't think I would like to see intermissions in films. I kind of just deal with it for the most part. Um, a lot. Here's another question, a little bit off topic. How do you feel about movie runtimes being like progressively getting longer, at least over the past few years?
I think it depends. I think there's some movies that come out, um, and they're just unnecessarily long, and they don't need to be that long. Like particularly, I watched Argyle today, and I thought that was
Oh,
kind of long
Argyle, yeah,
for that kind of story. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I
for a
feel
campy spy film.
yeah. So I think like it depends on the movie. Like I feel like it can be necessary to go that long if um depending on the subject matter or depending what kind of movie it is. Like a Dune being 2 hours and 46 minutes. Like it's a it's a big ass book, so it's three movies they're doing, but it makes a lot of sense for it to be drawn out the way it is because
Yeah,
of the
because you have
subject
like all
matter.
this, and you have like all this rich lore and stuff, and all this backstory and build up, and all this world to build out.
Right.
Um, my thing with runtimes is like, personally, I don't care how long your film is, as long as you merit your runtime, whatever your runtime may be. If it's an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3.5 hours, or like 4 hours, like Zack Snyder's Justice League, right? Like,
Right.
if your film can merit the runtime it has and it doesn't feel like there's any points where it's dragging or whatever, then I'm
Hmm.
fine with whatever you do, because every story's different and every story needs its amount of time to tell its story. Um, Sometimes people go too fast with their films, you know? Like you could be in a 2-hour film and be like, this could have been 20 minutes longer to flesh some stuff out. So I think it's all about finding like that happy medium,
Hmm.
or finding the right length to tell the movie that you're trying to make, if that makes sense. And like as long as you earn your runtime, I don't really care what it is. But 3.5 hours is still pretty long.
It is.
20 $30 well spent to see Pooh too. I was dumb and bought the freaking steel book for Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Oh,
It should be right down here. Let me
I
grab it.
pass on that.
Oh, where is it? Aha. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
It's the best thing about the movie.
The freaking steel book. I don't know if you've seen the like production images from the second one, which it looks better than the cheap ass shit they made last time. It still looks cheap as fuck though.
Yeah. Well, they had a little bit more money probably to work with.
Yeah, when it made like $20. For me and my
Yeah.
dad seeing it, they had twice their budget then. So,
Right.
uh, all right. Is there anything else you would like to add, sir, about
Not
our
really, man.
Oscars
Just
discussion?
looking forward to seeing if we're right, if we're on the right track with the buzz of some of these films, or if we're completely off track and we get a bunch of surprises and we're sitting here
Yeah.
going, why did they, pick that, or who won that? I'm surprised. I'm just interested to see if we get that or if it's going to go as what we think is planned.
Hmm.
Where Oppenheimer's popping off and winning a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll still secretly be hoping that somehow Iron Claw wins when they read Best Picture nominee. I'll just be like, please, Iron Claw, even though it's not nominated. I'll
Right.
start doing that. But yeah, I usually like sit down and like the day before the Oscars and like be like, here are my final predictions, and like make them all up, and then as I watch the ceremony or whatever, I'll like see how right I am or whatever. The past
Mm-hmm.
2 years I've been pretty spot on with it because I do like research on it too. Not just
Mm-hmm.
how do I feel, but like what's been winning most at other ceremonies and stuff. Like I usually guess about like 17 categories I make predictions on. I usually get about 14 or 15 right.
Mm-hmm.
I've got so I think not to toot my own horn, but I think I'm pretty good at predicting what's gonna win. But also you can kind of see it like who's gonna win. Like as it gets closer to the ceremony, it just kind
Mm-hmm.
of becomes kind of obvious in a way who's gonna
Right.
win what. Like like last year, not just because I loved the movie Everything Ever All at Once. I was like, yeah, this will win Best Picture. Like kind of like the way I'm just like, yeah, Oppenheimer will win. Like it's just like
Mm-hmm.
it's just like I don't know that it'll win, but in the same way you do know that it will win. So
Yeah. You just have that feeling, I guess, intuition.
yeah. So all right. Well, thank you everyone who watched our stream. I know Mike and Holland were here for quite a bit of time. If you're watching this in the future, maybe even after the ceremonies, go ahead and make fun of us in the comments if any of our predictions and stuff was wrong or whatever, or or if you watched this before the ceremony, put some of your predictions down below in the comments. Let us know what you thought about any of the best picture nominees. Oh, and Holland says, "Good chat, fellas."
Thanks for joining, Holland.
Thanks for putting a bunch of fun stuff for us to respond to in the chat. So yeah, comment whatever you want about the Oscars and stuff. Let us know if me and Ryan should win any of the Oscars. Good. Best live stream Oscar, if you make that category. But yep. All right. Any final words of wisdom from you, sir?
This is a great chat. Thanks for letting me join, and
Yeah, of course.
may the best movie win.
Yes, may the best movie win, which is the holdovers. Now end the stream before Ryan can say anything else.